Hi, I am obviously not the John McLaren that you have seen on these videos the last couple of weeks in your group. I am, however, Allison Murray, and I'm so glad to be a part of your group today, even if from a distance. I really wish I was sitting right there with you guys around your living rooms and your conference rooms, or maybe even you who's watching this video by yourself on YouTube during the week. Before we jump into the content, I want to remind everyone that our church is on a mission to flip the spiritual climate of this community. Now, that's a huge undertaking, and it's only possible if every single person takes their next step. Maybe your next step was coming to your group today, and man, that's awesome. Maybe your step is to share something personal today, or volunteer to pray when your leader asks for somebody. Maybe your step is to get more involved at church through a serve team, and I even hear that our kids team got some pretty rad shirts this week if you sign up to volunteer. Or maybe it's jumping in on partnership and committing to being a part of Christ Church and partnering with us on that mission. Our next partnership class is on March 20th during the 11 o'clock service. You can register through our church app, or you can ask your group leader, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you out. Now, this week's piece of armor is the last piece of clothing or piece of armor that we are supposed to actually put on. We've already established the battle is all around. It's going on constantly. And in that battle, you have the ability through Jesus to stay standing. You've put on the truth like a belt, kind of holding everything together. You've got righteousness or being right with God on your chest, protecting your heart. And then we see our next piece. After we've put those two pieces on, we are to verse 15, and your feet sandaled with readiness for the gospel of peace. The way I like to think about it is that we're to put our shoes on. And I don't know about you, but putting on my shoes is the very last thing I do before I walk out of the house. I tend to think people who wear shoes inside of their house are kind of weird. Maybe it's because I grew up in Hawaii and it wasn't culturally acceptable to wear shoes in the house. Maybe it's because the bottom of shoes have seen some pretty nasty things. Or maybe it's because shoes tell the story of where you're about to go. If you're headed to the beach or the pool, you put on flip-flops. If you're headed out to work in the yard, something that can get dirty or maybe protect your feet. If you're headed to work or to the gym or out with friends, your shoes tell the story of where you're going. The shoes we're talking about here on a Roman soldier would have been a bit of a strappy sandal, kind of giving their feet room to breathe when they walked long distances. They also would have been fitted with nails on the bottom, like spikes or kind of like our modern day cleats. And here's the reason. In battle, when the pressure is on, when they're pressing into you and attacking, you have to be able to stand your ground, to dig in, to have a firm grip, unmovable, because they knew if you were able to slide back or fall down or lose your footing, you're out of the fight. So here's the kind of shoe we are to put on, the thing that allows us to stand our ground and settle ourselves and really plant our feet. It's the gospel. The good news of who Jesus is, that he is who he says he is, and that he can do what he says he can do. We're to plant our feet, knowing that with truth around our waist and a heart guarded with righteousness, that we can actually experience peace in a very peaceless world. We can experience the peace that transcends understanding because we know deeply that there is a God in heaven who made you, who loves you, who sees what you're going through, who has a plan and a purpose for your life, who sent his son Jesus to this earth to take our place on the cross so that we can experience eternity with him. See, our peace comes from knowing that in this world, we're going to have trouble, but that we can take heart because we know how this story ends. And if you've placed your faith in Jesus, you know how your story ends. This world is temporary. Our home is with Jesus in heaven for all of eternity. So let me ask you this. What kind of shoes are you putting on? When you face battles in your life, at work, in your marriage, with your kids, do you put on your running shoes? Do you put on your shoes to go hit the bar? Do you put on your work boots and try to tough it out? Maybe you put on some slippers and you just try to sleep your way through it. The enemy would love nothing more than for you to experience peacelessness in your world. Confusion, doubt, regrets, fear, anxiety, stress. Through Jesus, we have access to peace. Real peace. Because the question we're really asking here is, will your source of peace or your lack of peace leave you standing after the battle?